Following the success of Dr. Teller's House of Horrors, Amicus produced Torture Garden in 1967, another horror anthology with a similar framework to that former film. Freddie Francis returned as director, while writing duties were transferred to Robert Bloch of Psycho fame, who mined his own short stories for material. It is not a film I see mentioned much in conversation. Certainly in discussions of Amicus anthologies, it is often overshadowed by the later, more well-known titles. That's a shame, as I think it is a very solid collection of stories, housed in a fun, overarching narrative. Enough preamble. Without further ado, let us rank the segments of Torture Garden. In last place, but still ranked within the average C category, I'm going with Mr. Steinway. This is the typical story of when a man meets a woman, but their blossoming relationship is threatened by the man's violently jealous piano. As weird as that very reductive summary sounds, unfortunately this segment plays out in a rather standard manner. We watch as the couple are slowly drawn apart by distrust and disbelief, one minor strange incident at a time. This story is saved for me by the much more flashy ending. For a segment that has been restrained in its horror, a picture falling over here, a piano lid slamming shut there, the climax suddenly becomes live-action Super Mario 64. It's not something you see every day, and therefore tickles my ivories, and the fact that the piano mockingly plays the funeral march as it stalks in for the kill is wickedly amusing. Other highlights are the piano room's curious set design, and another example of Bloch's fascination with handsome, lonely young men who are trapped under the thumb of a ghostly mother. I recommend he talks with a therapist, but otherwise, it's an acceptable enough segment that just kind of drags the film to a tired, trudging pace for a moment. I think the major issue with it is that the lead character lacks a defining character trait. The other leads seal their own nasty fates due to murderous greed, blind ambition, or dangerous obsession, respectively. This protagonist's fatal flaw is getting between a man and his Bechstein. Not quite as narratively satisfying. Next up, I nominate the framework story. Just as Dr. Terror offered his victims a fateful insight into the future, so does Dr. Diablo. He is a devilish fairground showman presiding over the titular Torture Garden, where he giddily narrates a tour through sinister devices. But for the high price of a $5, he'll take you into the back room and show you a pair of garden shears. Oh no, fret not. This is not the greatest scam of all time, as the shears will show you a vision of your own dark fate. Burgess Meredith is unsurprisingly fantastic and brings that penguin energy, so much so it always feels like he's only 5 seconds away from making a terrible bat pun. The framing of the victims between the shears sums up the whole movie, and the quirky presence of the goddess, who then crops up in every tale, is a nice touch. The segment eventually ends on a strong note too. Michael Ripper's character remains the only one who has not been granted a vision, so we sit and await another short story. But no! He freaks out and impales Dr. Diablo with the shears, apparently twisting fate around on the spooky villain. Alas, it is us who has been twisted, as it is revealed that Ripper and the Doctor are in cahoots, and this is part of the show. A nifty way to get the patrons to bugger off. Maybe it was all baloney then. Simple hypnosis. Typical carnival shit. No, hold on. Was this script written by Chubby Checker? Because let's twist again. The pair are caught by smarmy Jack Palance, and Dr. Diablo is outed as the devil. Well, the clue was in the bloody name. The fairground setting is perfectly fitting and natural for an anthology framework, so it works and it's fun. However, while it features a great star performance, overall the visitors lack the chemistry that Dr. Terror's bundle of train riders had. Palance and Meredith share their brief sinister moment at the finale, but nothing comes close to the sparring of Cushing and Lee, for example. In third place, Terror over Hollywood. This segment's off to a good start, opening with Nicole Shelby flapping about in her underwear. Turns out she's late for a very important date, with none other than Mike Charles. That's his name, don't wear it out.
Mike Charles.
Mike Charles.
Mike Charles. Mike Charles. Mike Charles. Mike Charles. Mike Charles.
Mike Charles?
I said don't wear it out. Mike Charles is a figure of some standing in the movie business, so the mere mention of this most powerful name,
Mike Charles,
is enough to get the girl's roommate chomping at the bit. This is the story's lead, Carla, who has a strong desire to be a Hollywood starlet. She offers to help her friend. You go shower while I finish ironing your one and only dress. Something smells dodgy in here. It's just Carla sabotaging her friend's hopes and dreams. They should have named the film Torture Garment. She callously blames the iron and ends up taking her friend's place on the date. They visit your standard family-friendly restaurant, featuring a snow globe full of skimpy ladies, but stumble into even more famous movie bozos, who tell Mike Charles to piss off and commandeer Carla for themselves. So, what started as a date between Underwear Lady and Mike Charles is now a date between Carla and these two other bigwigs. Keeping track? The cuckolded producer gets drunk and starts ranting about his hatred of Watch Mojo.
you better believe me. Finks. That's what they are. They're in their top 10.
Unacceptable opinion in that town, so he's taken out back and sobered up with a healthy portion of carbon monoxide. Carla's ambitions to form a career, no matter the cost, continue, until Bigwig number 2 is shot in the head, but somehow revived unscathed by some shifty surgeon. Mystery is afoot, eventually revealing that Hollywood's most elite of the elite have been transformed into robots of sorts. Carla knows too much, so the option is either death or become Hollywood's hottest hottie, at the expense of becoming a synthetic product.
Look, there's Carla Hayes. Isn't she a doll? A living doll.
Robert Bloch may have been wearing his feelings about the movie industry a little plainly on his sleeve here. Still, it's a fun little tale that may admittedly be light on horror, but makes up for it with a well-paced mystery and clear characterization. In second place, I present to you Enoch. Our lead here is Colin Williams. Colin is an utter twat. As the sole living relative to his dying uncle, he visits their estate in hopes of securing his inheritance. The uncle is definitely worse for wear. He's one coat of makeup away from being a Romero zombie. But the frail old man is not without his secrets. He's not worked for 30 years, but has lived in luxury in this fine house. Very suspect. Townsfolk believe the house used to belong to a witch. Colin demands to know the truth, and the agitator causes uncle to heave and ho. Instead of handing over the life-saving medicine, Colin watches the man croak. As I said, utter twat. Now free to roam the grounds, he uncovers a basement and a coffin, containing a decapitated body and a live cat. But wait, there's more. This green-eyed disco cat is named Balthazar. He has the powers of telepathy, brain zapping, and is able to lick his own crotch. Balthazar informs Colin that his utter twatness runs in the family, and that his uncle had trapped him in that coffin for 3 decades. Meh. Water under the bridge, because he's starving. Let's go find some mice, or maybe some tasty dry chunks. No, why not fresh hobo meat? Yep, Balthazar likes to feast on flesh, specifically, people's heads. Then he forces Colin to cover his head-chomping tracks and makes him do all the manual labour, paying him in return like he's a low-rent stripper. The story spirals out of control as Balthazar goes on a mad one.
Hello there.
Anyone who follows this channel should have expected this segment to rank highly for me. I do love a good cat tale, especially when the cat is called Balthazar and exclusively eats heads. It's corny goodness through and through. Torture Garden as a whole is very subdued in terms of violence and gore, but the implications of Balthazar's crimes come across effectively all the same.
There's a man out there with his head all...
As a last note on this segment, if you like watching a man go up and down the same staircase, this is the segment for you. This must all mean that my favourite segment from Torture Garden is The Man Who Collected Poe. No, the other guy who collected Poe. Yes, that's the one. The degree of acting talent suddenly jumps up about 4 notches in this segment, thanks to the pairing of Peter Cushing and Jack Palance. Both portray avid collectors of Edgar Allan Poe. A big part of why this works is just how infectious their gushing is. I've only ever been a casual Poe fan, but these guys make me want to go straight out and nab a first edition manuscript. Cushing invites the other fan over for some telltale heart and chill, both getting hammered in the process. The gleeful gushing boils over as the extent of Cushing's collection comes to light. Unpublished works, and so on. The audience's excitement rises with Palance's, each new discovery building up and up and up.
We must go upstairs now.
That insatiable appetite leads him to murder the gatekeeping Cushmeister and uncover the rest for himself. In the end, we discover that Cushing has the greatest collector's piece of all. Edgar Allan motherfucking Poe himself, cursed to eternal life behind a hidden crook.
Let us drink to the immortal Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, indeed. Poe begs for this curse to be lifted, which can only really be done so via fire. Palance submits, but only then does Poe decide to inform him that in breaking the curse, he too is now damned. A final Poe-style twist to end both their lives. Significantly, Palance is not terrified or upset, but madly joyous. He's just so happy to be involved in a Poe plot. Absolute nutter. This role was originally promised to Christopher Lee, but Columbia, who were financing the picture, demanded that the film should showcase 2 American actors. Meredith was one, and Lee lost his role to Palance. I cannot deny that I'd love to see Lee's version, but Palance admittedly kills it too. And it's not like we have a shortage of Lee and Cushing collaborations elsewhere. Well acted, well written, well horrific ending. What a lovely stroll around the torture garden that was. But tell me, how would you rank the segments? Let me know in the comments below while I go to eBay and bid on a pair of Edgar Allan Poe's soiled briefs.